all, welcome to Unit 4, Lesson 3. Our topic today is polar coordinate conversions. So let's get started with that. The right triangle given below can be used to explain the correspondence between the Cartesian or rectangular coordinates x, y and the polar coordinates r, theta, where the pole of the polar coordinates is the origin of the Cartesian coordinates and the polar axis is the positive x-axis. Okay, so I'll just reiterate what we just said, that the origin is called the pole, right? And your polar axis is your x-axis. So this is your polar axis, right? So these are the two things that we're discussing here. And your polar coordinate is written as r, theta. And your rectangular coordinates or Cartesian coordinates are x, y. Okay, and how do these, what's the relationship between the two? That's what we are going to be discussing today. How to convert polar to rectangular and back. And this is the whole lesson that we'll be discussing about. So let's get started with the polar coordinates. Just want to erase this. Okay, so it says the polar coordinates r, theta are related to the rectangular coordinates x, y as follows. So where does it come from actually? If I was to find theta, think about it. If I was to say cosine theta, isn't cosine theta would be what? X over r. If I solve for x, isn't that r cosine theta? So that's where it comes from. And similarly, if I was to find sine theta would be what? Y over r. Solve for y, you get r sine theta. So I think like knowing where it comes from will help you not make mistakes on these formulas, or you can just remember them. Okay, what is tangent theta? We all know tangent. We've done this for quite some time now. Is, okay, hold on. It is sine over cosine. Let me finish that. It's sine theta over cosine theta. If I was to write it in terms of x and y, it's y over x. And r square is what? Going back to this triangle again, r square would be what? Using your Pythagorean theorem, x square plus y square. If I was to solve for r, I'm going to take the square root of it. It'll be x square plus y square, right? And let me tell you, these two will help me convert rectangular, these ones, rectangular to polar, and this helped me convert polar to rectangular. So let's get started with convert each point to rectangular coordinates. So this is already my r, this is my theta. So how do I use this? So I'm going to say I want to find my x coordinate first. X is what? R cosine theta. So what's my r? R is 2. Substitute in cosine of pi. Cosine of pi is what? -1. So 2 times -1, which is -2. So my x coordinate is -2. I'm going to similarly do y equals r sine theta. Y equals 2 times sine of pi. Sine of pi is 0, so 2 times 0 would be 0. So you must write your final answer as a coordinate. So -2, 0 is your rectangular coordinate. Now same thing here. It's x is equal to r cosine theta. I'm going to write the formula every time. So this is r. You're going to write that theta on top. All you're doing is substituting in rad 3 cosine pi over 6. Cosine pi over 6 is rad 3 over 2. So it's going to be rad 3 times rad 3 over 2, which is 3/2. Right? Now the other one, y equals r sine theta. So let's substitute r with rad 3 sine pi over 6. Sine of pi over 6 is 1/2. So it is y is rad 3 over 2. So my coordinates are 3 over 2 comma rad 3 over 2. Right? It says find two sets of polar coordinates for the point for theta is greater than or equal to 0 and strictly less than 2 pi. Okay, so let's do this. This is my x and this is my y, right? So I want to find which would be where. If I was to sketch it, 0, 2 is like a point here. So I'm just giving another representation of it, which is in as a polar coordinate. Actually, I have to write 2 ways. So I'm going to find my angle. So tangent theta is what? Y over x. So what's my y? 2 over 0, which is undefined. So where is tangent undefined? Tangent is undefined at pi over 2, right? And actually 3 pi over 2, but let's write this down. If the point is here, it's just pi over 2. I can't talk about it the other direction. So now we want to find our r. I know r squared is x squared plus y squared. So r squared would be what? 0 squared plus 2 squared. Solve for r. You get what? R is equal to plus and minus 2. So my 2 points would be, if I do positive 2, and this is what? Pi over 2. Or I can do negative 2, comma, 3 pi over 2. So these are my 2 representations. Letter B. So negative 1, 1. So where is negative 1, 1? Negative 1, 1 is like somewhere in the second quadrant, right? So that's where my point is. So that kind of thing gives you an idea where your angle would be also. So let's start with the angle. Tangent theta is y over x, which is 1 over negative 1, which is negative 1. So tell me, tangent is for what theta value is tangent negative 1? So theta is going to be 3 pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4, right? Going back to my ASTC, tangent is negative in the second and fourth quadrant. So it's 3 pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4, right? So now let's go find our r, which is negative 1 square plus 1 square. So r is what? Plus and minus rad 2, right? So my 2 sets of polar coordinates would be positive rad 2, and it'll be 3 pi over 4, and negative rad 2, comma, 7 pi over 4. So now I want you to finish the remaining of the packet. Good luck.